Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Salatu Wassalamu ala Rasul Kareem, ربنا تقبل منا زدنا علما وحكمة وهدى أسأل الله أن يوفقنا لما يحب ويرضى أن ينفعنا ما علمنا اللهم بما ينفعنا اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد عبدك ورسولك النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما اللهم آتنا نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها وليها ومولانا شيوخنا أما بعد. The praises are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is the Lord of the universe. Everything happens because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High. And the peace and blessings upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the example that we follow. We'll continue on the fiqh al-Hanbaliya from Imam al-Sunnah, Ahmad Ibn Hanbal, who brings to us the ilm from the narrations from the hadith and from the other things, from the knowledge from the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And today we're going to talk about the sajdatu Sahu. That means the prostration of forgetfulness. And that's explained by the Sheikh Ibn Qudama, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon him, in his book called the Umdah al-Fiqh. And alhamdulillah, let's go through that, through the different things about the prostration of forgetfulness, sajdatu Sahu, on that chapter. Would you like to read the first one, Brother Sheikh Omar? Read the first one, number 1 on the paper.
Whoever purposely adds or subtracts voids the salat.
Okay, so the first thing is when you have the salat, it's ordained by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Sallu kama ra'aytumuni yusalli," pray like you see me praying. So if they add something to it on purpose, that means not forgetfully, on purpose, add something to it that's not part of the salat, or they take something away from it on purpose, then that completely invalidates the salat. The person, they have to pray the way the Prophet Muhammad prayed. Like for example, let's say a person, they're praying Salat al-Dhuhr, and then they say, I'm going to do 2 extra sajdas at the end, then the whole salat is invalid. Or the person, they say, I'm going to pray, I'm not going to do a ruku in the salat, then the salat is invalid. No, so you have to pray the way the Prophet Muhammad did. If a person, if they do it on purpose, that is intentionally add something or subtract something from the salat, then the salat is void. So the sahu is if a person, if they do it forgetfully. Sahu, what happens in Arabic, you have the word nasiya. Nasiya means forgetfulness, a person, they forgot something. And sahu refers to the action caused by that forgetfulness. Because the forgetfulness is in the mind, but doing the action, that's what they call sahu. So that's what that's referred to. So the first point that the Shaykh made is that a person, these things in the salat, if a person, they do it on purpose, then that invalidates the salat. If they add something or subtract something. Just if they do it forgetfully or accidentally, that's where the sajdatu Sahu comes in. Okay, Jazakallah khair. You read number 2, brother?
Mm-hmm. Number 2, if that is done forgetfully or doubtfully, it does not void, but the prostration of forgetfulness is enjoyed, commended.
Yes. وَإِنْ كَانَ ذَلِكَ لِسَحْوُ أَوْ شَكٌّ. So if a person, if they do it, we talked about that, sahu means the action of forgetfulness, or shakun, or doubtfully, or they don't remember if they added something or they forgot if they did something. So they're shak, it's questionable. So then what happens is, what's enjoined is the sajdatu Sahu, the 2 sajdas at the end of the salat. That's what that's referred to. The sajda or prostration, sajda when you go down on the ground, of the Sahu. Okay, inshallah. So let's go on to number 3. I think I talked about that previously. On that.
Number 3, it is obligatory when.
Okay, so you read those.
Extra bowl.
Okay, let's go through each one. I'll explain it like extra. Zada li ruku. So, for example, if a person, they did an extra ruku, they did the ruku, they said Sami Allahu liman hamida rabbana lakal hamd, then they do the ruku again. Then that's enjoined. The person forgot that they did the ruku, then they so then it's enjoined on that. If they did an extra ruku. Okay, and then the next one.
Extra bow?
Yes, or sujudan, or extra sajda. what happens is a person, they do 2 sajdas in a rakat. If they did the third one forgetfully, an extra one forgetfully, then you do the sajdatu sahu because of that. And the next one that the Sheikh mentioned,
Is standing.
yes, so if they did an extra standing, like let's say if the salat is 4 rakats, then a person, they stood up on the 5th rakat, then the sajdatu sahu is enjoined. And this here also refers to if the imam is leading the salat, and then what happens is he might stand up for extra rakat, and the people behind him will inform him. They'll say Subhanallah, to inform him. So then he does the sajdatu sahu in that particular case. Same thing with the other things also. It's not necessarily a person himself remembers himself. It's if it also applies if the imam is doing it, and then the people behind, they remind him about it, and then he does the sajdatu sahu in these cases. If he added an extra ruku, extra sajda, or extra standing. And then the next one, extra
sitting.
Yes, or extra sitting, and that refers to the tashahhud, or one that's an extra one. And again, these things here, maybe a person, they don't realize it themselves that they're doing an extra one. But if it's like the imam doing it and the people behind it, they realize it, then they'll inform the imam, and then the sajdatu sahu is enjoyed in that case. Okay, inshallah, and then the last thing mentioned?
Or saying salam before finishing.
Yes. So if a person, if they say salam too early, then they do the sajdatu sahu as well. On all those things. So basically, these are some examples of the things that a person that might have done forgetfully, and then do the sajdatu sahu in those circumstances. All right, inshallah. So that's what he mentioned, some of those things there. And let's go to number 4, the next thing that's mentioned.
Number 4, or leaving an obligation.
Okay, let's stop right there. Or taraka wajibat. Okay, so this here, it gets a little bit detailed, a little bit complicated, and the person, they really have to be very knowledgeable of the fiqh and the things in the salat. Because in the salat, what happens is the things that you do in the salat are divided into 3 categories. One, they call it a rukn, which is a pillar of the salat, which is a fundamental of the salat. The second thing is called wajibat, which means something that's obligatory to do in the salat. And the third thing is the sunnah of the salat. So all the different things that you do in the salat, it falls into one of those 3. It's either the rukn means one that you have to do it. If you miss it, then the salat is invalid. And the second one is wajibat, that means that you have to do it. But if you don't do the wajibat, then you can make up for it by doing the sajdatu sahu. And the third one is the sunnah. And the sunnah, the sajdatu sahu doesn't make up for the sunnah. Just leave it, that's no problem. So those are the 3 things in the salat. So what happens is a person, they leave out a rukn, a pillar of the salat. We have another lesson that talks about what are the pillars of the salat. Then what a person, they do is, it's not sufficient just to do the sajdatu sahu. What they have to do is they have to repeat it. So they have to repeat the rakat if they left out a rukn. Or the other thing they could do is they can go back to where they left it out and do the rest of it. Like for example, let's say a person, they left out the sajda. The sajda is a rukn. So what they do is, and they're in the next rakat. What they do is they go back to where they were in Sami Allahu liman hamdah, then go to the sajda and do the rest of the salat from there. So they have to return to the place of the rukn that they left out, do the rukn, and continue the rest of the salat from there. Let me see, I don't know if I made that clear. Like for example, let's say a person, they forgot to say Surah Al-Fatiha, and then they went down and did, and then they got up. Then what happens is they remember, I didn't say Surah Al-Fatiha. Then they got to go back, rewind, go back, recite Surah Al-Fatiha, then continue the rest of the rakat and the rest of the salat. Okay, is that clear on the rukn? So it's not, you can't just do the sajdatu sahu on the end and then your salat is fine. No, the rukn, you have to make sure that you do it. You have to return to it and do it again. And in the worst case, you have to repeat the salat again if you left out a rukn. It's not sufficient just to do sajdatu sahu. Okay, that's the rukn of the salat. The next thing they call the wajibat of the salat. The wajibat, that means the obligatory things of the salat. And what happens for those, it's obligatory to do them, but if you leave it out, then you can do the sajdatu sahu, and that will make up for the wajibat. That mends the wajibat if you do the sajdatu sahu. That's what you do. The person, they leave out a wajib, they leave out something that's obligatory, and they do the sajdatu sahu. Then the third thing in the salat is things that are sunnah in the salat, and the sunnah in the salat. Many of the ulama, the Hanbali, they say you don't have to do the sajdatu sahu, it's just a sunnah. But there is a view that says you also do the sajdatu sahu, but it's not necessary to do it if you leave out a sunnah. It's necessary to do it if you leave out a wajib, something that's an obligation in the salat. Okay, so to read these things here that are the wajibat, this is in a different chapter on the different things that are the wajib of the salat. There's things that are rukn of the salat that's mentioned in a section, and there's things that are wajib in the salat, that's obligatory in the salat, and there's things that are sunnah in the salat. So these are the things that are wajib, that are obligatory in the salat. Can you read them one by one? First one?
Mm-hmm. Yes. All takbirs, saying Allahu Akbar beside the ihram.
Yes. So what happens is when you start the salat, you have takbiratul ihram. That's the initial takbir, and then you're in a state of forbiddance where you can't talk to anybody. So that one is considered a rukn of the salat. So if a person left that one out, they have to go back and start the salat from the beginning. They can't just do the sajdatu sahu. But all the other takbirs, like when you say Allahu Akbar, go to ruku, or Allahu Akbar when you go to sajda, if you leave that out, then that's considered to be a wajib. Then what you do is you do the two sajdas in the end, and that will make up for it. So it's talking about all the other takbirs, all the other places where you say Allahu Akbar, except for the first one. The first one, it's a rukn of the salat, and the other ones are the wajibat of the salat. So that's the first one. The second one is what?
Saying tasbih in bowing and prostration.
Okay, so the other thing that's a wajib is when you go to the ruku, you have to say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim. You have to say those in the ruku. And if you left that out, then you could do the two sajdas on the end, and that's fine. And the same thing when you're in the sajda, you say Subhana Rabbiyal Ala, Subhana. And if you left out saying it, then you could do two sajdas in the end to make up for it. That is saying those specific words. Like if you go to ruku, you forgot to say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, and you said something else, then the two sajdas on the end would make up for it. So that's the other thing that's the wajib. Okay, the next thing that's mentioned, that's a wajib.
Asking forgiveness between the prostration. Okay,
in the Hanbali school, what happens is they say that between the two sajdas, when you do the two sajdas, you have to say Rabbi Firli or more than that. That's a wajib in the Hanbali school. And the reason they say that in the Hanbali school is because you need to pause in each position in the salat. If you go to the sajda and then you go up and you don't say anything, then you go down again, there's no pause. There's no tu'manina, there's no steadiness. So they say that when you go down to the sajda, Subhana Rabbil Ala, Subhana Rabbil Ala, then you say Allahu Akbar, then you have to say at least Rabbi Firli between the two sajdas, then go back to the sajda after. So if you leave that out, that's considered a wajib, obligatory thing in the salat. So they say you have to do the two sajdas in the end if you left that out. Okay, inshallah, and what's the next thing?
Fourth tashahhud.
Oh, yes. So if the salats that are 3 rakats or 4 rakats, Maghrib, or Dhuhr, or Asr, or Isha, what happens is you have the first tashahhud in the second rakat. And then you also have another one in the last rakat. So what happens is that's considered a wajib, that first tashahhud in the second rakat. So that one there, if you leave that out, then you do the two sajdas in the end. That's considered to be a wajib of the salat. The middle tashahhud, the middle part where you stand up and you say at-tahiyyat, So that's the other one that you do the sajda on the end to make up for it if you left it out. Okay, and then the last thing that's mentioned is
Forced sitting.
okay the sitting, and that refers to, because what happens is the tashahhud is the statement in the mouth, so he's repeating it, that the person, what they do is they sit down in that position and they say the tashahhud. And the reason that's mentioned is because what happens is you have what's called the jalsatu istiraha, and that's like if you pray the first rakat, and what you do is instead of going from the sajda straight up, then you go to the sajda, then you sit down, and then you go up afterwards. And so for the second rakat, normally speaking, you'd go up and you sit down, okay? Then you say the tashahhud. So the previous one is talking about the verbalization of saying the tashahhud, but this one is saying the actual sitting down, the position of sitting down on the second one. So, and if a person, they left that out, then they do the two sajdas on the end. And sometimes people, they might do that, they might be praying Dhuhr, and in the second rakat, the person's there in the sajda, the imam is in the sajda, says Allahu Akbar, and then he skipped the middle tashahhud completely. And that's what that refers to, that's considered a wajib. And then the person, they've done that, then they don't go back to it. You know, that's a mistake, that's something that some people, they should know. If the imam stands up in the second rakat, then you let the imam continue. You know, he doesn't go back to the middle tashahhud, because it's not a rukn of the salah, it's a wajib of the salah. If it's something else that's a rukn, then the imam has to go back to it and continue the salah from that point. But if it's a wajib, then you just leave it and then pray the rest of the salah and do two sajdas in the end, and that will do it. Okay, inshallah, so that's the list of the things that are wajib in the salah. Okay, you could go back and refer to the other lessons and the other books of ilm to see what things are rukn, what things are the pillars of the salat, and what things are the wajibat, what things are obligatory in the salat, and what things are the sunnah. And again, if you leave out something that's a rukn, a pillar, you have to go back and do it. It's not sufficient to do the sajdatu sahu. If you leave out a wajib, then you have to do the sajdatu sahu. If you leave out a sunnah, then you don't have to necessarily do the sajdatu sahu. So that's the rules for it. Okay, inshallah, so let's go to the next one, number 5.
Number 5 says, if in doubt of leaving a pillar or number of raka'at, build on what is sure, and that is lesser number of rak'ats, and do the prostration of forgetfulness.
Okay, so all right. So what happens is sometimes a person, they don't remember, they don't know for sure whether they prayed 3 rakats or 4 rakats. Let's say a person, they're praying Salat al-Asr, and then they're praying and they say, did I pray 3 rakats or did I pray 4 rakats? And they don't know for sure, it's doubtful, you know. So in that case, what a person, they have to do is they have to remove the doubt. And the doubt is, the thing that's questionable is, did you pray the 4th rakat or not? That's what's questionable. So this is based on the usul al-fiqh also, is bayin ala, yabni ala bayin, wa taraka ma, to build on what is clear and then to leave what is doubtful. So what's doubtful, if a person, they prayed, if they're questioning, did they pray 3 or 4 rakats, and what's questionable, did they pray the 4th rakat or not? So that's what's doubtful. I definitely prayed 3 rakats, and what's in question is, did I pray the 4th rakat or not? So then what happens, a person, they let that go. They let that doubt completely go and assume that they prayed 3 rakats. Then what they do is they pray one more. They pray one more in that case. So that's what that's saying over here. So that's if a person, if they're in doubt whether they performed a rukn or not, then assume that a person, they left it and just do an extra one. And then what happens is, if a person, if they did, if they added one on, then it becomes extra reward for the person. And if it was the same number, then it's humiliation for the shaitan. There's another hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that mentions that. So that's the case over here. I hope I explained it properly. Okay, let's say a person, they're praying, like for example, Salatul Fajr. Then they pray, they prayed Salat, and they're questioning, did I pray 1 rakat or did I pray 2 rakats? Okay, did I pray? The thing is, what's clear is that he prayed one rakat, so go by that. He prayed one rakat, then pray one more. Then pray one more rakat, and do 2 sajdas in the end. Okay, Salatul Fajr. Let's say you're praying Salatul Isha, and then when you're reaching the end, you say, did I pray 3 rakats or did I pray 4 rakats? Then assume you prayed 3, pray one more, and do 2 sajdas in the end. Okay, that's what this is saying here. And the same thing goes for the other rukns in the salat. If a person, they're questioning whether they've done it or not, just repeat it again, and the rest of the rakat that's after that, and do the 2 sajdas in the end. Okay, all right, inshallah. Let's go to number 6.
Number 6. Do not dwell on a doubt after leaving from it.
Yes. Okay, so what happens is the shaitan comes and the person, they might be doubtful about something, and then the person, they think about it a lot. Oh, did I do it? Did I not do it? So what happens sometimes a person, they come to the realization that about what they actually did. So after that, just forget about it. Don't think about it anymore. Like for example, let's say the person, they're praying Maghrib, and then at the last rakat, they question, did I pray 3 rakats or did I pray 2 rakats? Then the person says, oh yes, I prayed 3 rakats. That's what they think, that's what they're more sure of. So then they say the taslim after that. And then after that, the person, forget about it. Don't dwell on it after that. That's what they're saying. You came to the conclusion that you prayed 3 rakats, that's it. Don't think about it anymore. Okay? That's what it's saying. So don't dwell on the doubt after leaving it. That's what that's referred to. And so that happens for things in the doubt. A person, they're doubtful, they're questioning whether they did something or not. And then the thing that a person they're more sure of, then you go by that. Go by that if a person they're more sure of, if they prayed it. And once they abide by it, they do the action by it, and then just don't dwell on it anymore. That's what the Sheikh is saying over there. Don't dwell on the doubt after a person they have resolved it. No. Okay, inshallah. So let's go to number 7.
It is a sunnah to do the prostration of forgetfulness if one says enjoyed words in other than its place.
Okay, like for example, if they say something in a different position than what they're supposed to, then it's a sunnah to do the prostration of forgetfulness, the Sajda Sahu, if they did that. Like for example, let's say a person, they went to the sajda and they said Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim. But what they're supposed to say is Subhana Rabbiyal Ala, Subhana Rabbiyal Ala, Subhana Rabbiyal Ala. They're supposed to say that instead. So what happens is they said the words in a different place than what they're supposed to. So in that case, it's a sunnah to do the sajdatu sahu in the end. Okay, and sometimes a person, they might be too forgetful and they go in a position and they say something, but it was different. It was supposed to be wording for a different position. So that's what the Sheikh is saying over here. If a person, if they do that, if they say something that was supposed to be said in a different position, then just do the 2 sajdas in the end. And of course, this doesn't mean that a person, they can leave out a rukn in the salat. That's not whatever person, just a person, they made a mistake. If they left out a rukn, then they have to make sure that they do it. They do they do that action that was a rukn, that action that was a pillar. Okay, inshallah, let's go to number 8. Let's say.
It is allowed if leaving a sunnah of the salah.
Okay, so we talked about that earlier. There's things of the salat that are rukn, things that are wajib, things that are sunnah. Sunnah means the tradition of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and if a person, they leave out a sunnah, then nothing is due on the person. But a person, they can do the sajdatu sahu if they left out a sunnah. Like for example, reciting a surah after Surah Fatiha, if the person left out reciting a surah after Surah Fatiha, then the salat is fine. They don't have to do anything. But if they want to, they can do the 2 sajdas in the end because they forgot to recite a surah after Surah Fatiha. Because reciting a surah after Surah Fatiha, it's a sunnah. So if a person, they left out something that's a sunnah, then if they want to, they can do the 2 sajdas in the end because it's called sajdatu sahu, the sajda of forgetfulness. They can do that if they like, but it's not necessary to do so. It's not necessary to do so. Okay, inshallah, let's go to number 9.
Number 9. It is place is allowed before the taslim and after.
Okay, inshallah. So the sajdatu sahu, what happens in some narrations from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was before saying the taslim. Now, when you reach the end of the salat, before you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, you say Allahu Akbar, and go do say in the sajda, and say the things in the sajda. Say Allahu Akbar again, go in the sajda, and say the things in the sajda, and then say Allahu Akbar, and then say the taslim. Say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And the other way to do it is you say the taslim first, you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, then you do the 2 Sajda Sahu after. Then you say Allahu Akbar, say Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, the other things in the sajda, say Allahu Akbar, then Allahu Akbar again, second sajda to the second sajda, and say Allahu Akbar, and you finish the salat. That's how in the Hanbali school that you do it. The other schools, they do it a little bit differently. In the Hanafi school, they always do it after the taslim, and they say the tashahhud again afterwards. So they do it. They might have a different. But in the Hanbali school, those are the 2 places. Now the question is, when do you do it before and when you do it after? And that gets a little bit complicated because they go by the hadiths that are mentioned. In some hadiths it's mentioned that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he did the sajda before the taslim, and you go by that hadith. And in some hadiths it says that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did the sajda after the taslim. And the quick way of explaining it is, say, if you leave something out, then you do it before the taslim, and if you added something, you do it after the taslim. That's a quick explanation, they say. But you really have to look at the text of the hadiths. There's quite a few of them that's mentioned in the books of hadith that talk about, that mention when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did the taslim, and he did it on particular occasions. He did the taslim, he did the sajdatu sahu before the taslim. In other occasions, he did it after the taslim, and you have to go by that. And it varies on the situation. But doing it before or after, that's sufficient. And then except number 10, that's an exception that he says. Can you read number 10 there, brother? Sheikh Omar?
Except if one says taslim before finishing the rakat, then as to it, then it's recommended after the taslim.
Yeah, so this is what many of the people of knowledge, they say. They say that if you said the taslim, when you finish the salat, you said the taslim, that means you have additional things to do afterwards, then they say you do it after the taslim. So that's one of the scenarios that you have. Okay, so then again, that goes to what many of the ulama, they say is a quick synopsis, that if you left something out in the salat, you do it before the taslim. If you added something to the salat, you do it after the taslim. And if you said the taslim and then you're doing things afterwards, then what the Sheikh he said over here, you do it after the taslim. That's what's recommended to do after that. Okay, inshallah. All right, inshallah. So this is the things that's mentioned in the note. So what a person they do is they learn from the shuyukh and the teachers on the salat, and this is how they teach the way to do the sajdatu sahu in the Hanbali school, from Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal. So a person they learn from the sheikh, they follow those procedures. And then they have, if a person they learn from another school, they have a different procedure on how to do the sajdatu sahu. In the Maliki school, they have, you leave out sunnahs, and they have qablis and badis, they have that. So a person, they learn from the shuyukh and, and ulama in the school. And then in the Hanafi school, they always do it after the taslim. So a person, they follow that, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, inshallah, so we'll stop over here. Jazakallah khair, thanks for listening. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayk. And may peace and blessings be upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.